if you're the target of a criminal investigation, it's time to proceed with caution. Every case is different, and there are many things to consider. So I just wanted to give you 5 things to think about, 5 things to keep in mind or guidelines as you navigate the world of criminal justice. The number one thing I would suggest to keep in mind is don't talk to the police. The police are going to want to talk to you as the target of a criminal investigation, the main suspect in whatever crime they're talking about. So you're the target. They're going to come try and talk to you. You have a right not to, so I would suggest that you don't talk to them. Even if you want to go in and say, hey, I didn't do it, that's not all that's going to be asked. A good detective or even an officer is going to keep you talking. And if they try that, the second piece of advice I have under this category is ask for a lawyer. Ask for a lawyer often and repeatedly. There are legal reasons for this that I can get into in a different video, but don't talk to the police. If they are talking to you, ask for a lawyer. Even if you want to go in and say, hey, I didn't do it, they're going to keep you talking because they can get admissions out of you. They can get location, time, who you were with. All these things can put you in the eye of the storm or the center of the criminal activity that they're talking about, and that is bad. Another thing that can go wrong is you might tell them something that's proven to be factually incorrect later. Maybe it was a mistake. You didn't mean to lie to them, but they're going to tag that as a lie, and they're going to use that against you. So for these reasons and more, frankly, I advise don't talk to the police. There are many, many more things that can go wrong with talking to the police than go right. So don't talk to the police. The second rule or thing to keep in mind is do not take the police polygraph. If you're violating rule number 1 and you're giving a statement to the police or the detective, they will often ask you to take the police polygraph. Just come on down to the station, we'll hook you up to the polygraph. If what you're telling me is true, you didn't do this or that, then we're going to clear you, right? Okay. So what happens is you then go down to the police polygraph, you go into a room and they hook you up to the machine, and I can do a whole thing on polygraphs, but for our purposes, there are 3 sections to the polygraph. There's the first part where the polygrapher, the officer that's administering the polygraph, is going to ask you questions about the case, questions about the incident, maybe some background on you. Then there's going to be the short polygraph, which is 3 to 5 questions. That's the polygraph. And then there's the post-polygraph interview or interrogation, where the officer is telling you, you failed the polygraph, my machine is saying you're lying, why are you lying? And now you're making more statements and you're on your heels, making admissions, mistakes, and or confessions. So it is bad. So if you remember rule number 1, don't talk to the police. Rule number 2 is on steroids. Don't take the polygraph because it's a long, detailed statement to the police while you're hooked up to the you're lying machine. So don't do it. The third thing to keep in mind, or a rule if you will, this one gets more people who are in trouble in more trouble. So if you are charged with a crime and there's a person accusing you of a crime, crimes with alleged victims, criminal sexual conduct, assaultive crimes, stalking, larceny in a building, things like this, where there's somebody pressing charges, if you will. Over my years, an instinct of people is to reach out and try and communicate with these folks and calm the situation down, explain the situation, or get them to back off the charges. This is a bad idea. First of all, these people have called the police on you and they are pressing charges against you. You need to give them air. You go and contact them and it's like throwing gas on the fire. Things can go very poorly by doing that. In addition to that, if you're doing that, then Mike gets a call from a detective, or worse yet, a prosecutor, and they're talking about obstruction of justice, they're talking about witness tampering. These things will take a bad situation and make it worse. So don't reach out and communicate social media, text messaging, Snapchatting, calling, carrier pigeon or any other way to the other side, the person that's accusing you of a crime. There is a greater chance that you're going to make things worse than make them better, and you take yourself from one position and make it a worse position. So don't do that. Number 4, you might have the opportunity to collect some evidence. For example, if we just talked about number 3, if there's a victim in the case or alleged victim in the case, and they've made a public post on Facebook, Instagram, whatever other social media post there is, you may want to take a screenshot and capture that, because if it helps you out, it's probably going to be taken down at some point in the near future. So you might want to screenshot, grab that while you can, but that doesn't mean reach out to them. It doesn't mean Facebook message them, Snapchat them, text message them, call them. It doesn't mean that. It means just take a screenshot or capture that image or that information, whatever it is, before it is taken down. So that is number 4. If there's some evidence to be had that's publicly available and you can screenshot that without communicating with the other person, then that's something to consider. The 5th rule to keep in mind is don't give consent to search. There's a carve out here for drunk drivings, chemical tests. That's different. There's implied consent. That's a whole other video. But drunk drivings aside, don't give consent to search. Now, if you're violating my rule number 1 and you're talking to the police, a good detective is going to ask to search. They're going to ask you to consent to search a phone, a computer, an apartment, a house, a vehicle. They might ask for biological information, saliva for DNA analysis. Don't give them consent. Consent is essentially an exception to the search warrant requirement. Now, if they can get a search warrant, if they have probable cause to search, let them go get a search warrant. That's their job. They can do that. And then if they come back with that, then it's a court order, then comply. Be polite as always, but comply. And if they can't get a search warrant, if they don't have probable cause, then what are we doing? Why are we giving the police consent to search something that they have no right to search? So that's my number 5 rule of thumb. Do not give consent to search. Well, here's 6. I guess this is a bonus. If you are being investigated for a crime but have not been charged yet, you've got some time. We always consider that time as very valuable, and maybe there's something that you can do to mitigate your circumstance. For example, if you are looking at being charged with an assaultive crime, you may look at an anger management assessment, follow through with those recommendations. If there's counseling to maybe on de-escalation, communication tactics, that could be helpful. If you are looking at being charged with something involving drugs or alcohol, a substance abuse assessment might be in order. And then you can follow through with those recommendations to help you get on the right path. Now, these kinds of things can help you mitigate your circumstances for sure. Now, that's a good reason to do it. But also, it might help you personally. Now, we can all use some counseling, but in this circumstances, we really take a close look and see if we can connect somebody with the right provider. So that's a bonus thing to consider if you are looking at being charged with crime. All right, some final words to keep in mind. Obviously, every case is different, and these are just general rules to keep in mind. They're general rules we keep in mind, and we take them very seriously. However, rules can be broken, and every case is different. But if you're going to break these rules, you should have the advice of some very, very competent counsel that's very familiar with the criminal justice system. So, finally, if you are approached by police, be polite. Always be polite. We are always trying to de-escalate instead of escalate the problem. So, be polite. Don't consent to a search of anything. Don't give a statement. Ask for a lawyer. And if you are taken to jail, go cooperatively. You are going to make things worse if you're resisting. It's more charges, more problems. more difficulty in getting out of jail. And remember, the jail calls are recorded and they do listen to them. All right, I hope this was helpful.